Bonjour mon petit chauffeur, Amber here. It is almost July, which means we are now over halfway through the year, which means it is time for one of my favorite videos to do every year. It's time to check in with my annual mid-year book freakout tag. I say annual, but last year was the first time that I haven't done it. I think maybe I was gonna say maybe since I started almost exclusively talking about books on this channel, but I'm not sure if it was a thing for those first few years. But this is like, last year was the first time I missed doing it since it's been a popular thing on booktube. Side note, unrelated to anything, when I was editing my last video, which was the books that should have been standalones, I was noticing how much I talk with my hands. I know I talk with my hands a lot, but it just seemed extra, and I just chalked that up to the rings I was wearing. I'm not wearing chunky rings, and now I see the gesticulation and it's getting on my nerves. So I'm sorry. I am aware and I'm sorry. But I don't want to talk too much. This is just it should be a quick, fun little moment, and I don't want to yap too much. So I've got my notebook with all the questions. Let's recap the first half of 2025. Okay, so the first question is, what is the best book you've read so far this year? Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Easily, the best book I've read this year was Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. That book rewired something in my brain. That book changed my life. That book is a masterpiece. It's phenomenal. I've gushed about this book constantly since reading it back in March. So it's been like 3 months and I have not stopped thinking about it. In fact, I was supposed to read Parable of the Talents this month. Unfortunately, did not get around to it. And now I don't know when I will, because next month is another themed reading month. So maybe August. But I need to read that immediately. Another book that could have fit this question, could have answered this question, is Immortal Dark by Tigis Germa. That book is everything to me. That book is, if you are a dark academia girly, if you are a vampire girly, if you want your dark academia to actually be dark, right? If you like dark academia surrounding black characters where the main conflict, the main problem that needs to be solved is not racism, if you are an enemies to lovers girly that wants your enemies to lovers to be enemies, you want them to hate each other, you want there to be like absolute loathing, unadulterated loathing, Immortal Dark. Num 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 num, eat it up. Book 2 comes out this year. I'm buzzing. Anyway, next. Best sequel you've read so far this year. I haven't read many sequels. I actually put this video off from when I was supposed to film it a couple days ago because I was in the middle of finishing a sequel and I wanted to give it a chance to make this list. I am going to mention Heavenly Tyrant, which is the sequel to Iron Widow. We know how I feel about Iron Widow. Yeah. Finished Heavenly Tyrant the other day. Sheeran wants me dead. Wants me dead and gone and in the ground. And God knows when book 30 is coming out. God knows. Talk about a cliffhanger. I feel like I am hanging off a cliff. But the main one I want to use for this answer is technically a third book, but I'm going to count it anyway. It's Oathbound. It's Oathbound by Tracy Deonn, the third of the Legendborn cycle. What do you mean? Tracy, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean by that? I love Legendborn with the entirety of my heart. So much so that I recently joined a book club. And the book that we were reading the first month that I joined was Legendborn, and I was so stoked because I just finished reading it for the third time in preparation of Oathbound. But when it came time to go to the meeting, I just refused to go because I am very protective of that book, and I could see a lot of people like in the group chat were not understanding it, and I just didn't want to hear their opinions. Sorry, it's not a safe space with me when it comes to Legendborn. I don't want to hear it. Wrap it up. No, do not speak on my children. Do not speak on Brianna. Do not speak on Selwyn. Do not speak on Nicholas. Shut it down, okay? But Oathbound, my God today, from the first page to the last page, was an emotional roller coaster. Tracy also wants me dead, but I already knew that. I knew that a long time ago. I've accepted that. What are we gonna do? Like, obviously I can't say much because it is the third book in a series, so do me a favor if you haven't already. Catch up. Let's play catch up here. Okay, next, a new release you haven't read yet but want to. Where do I start? There are quite a few that I have on my new release spread in my reading journal that I haven't even. I need to go to the bookstore. I have also renewed my library card finally, so I don't know. I've just been so wrapped up with my themed reading this year. I've done what? January was Dark Academia. Yeah, March was my Hosier vlog. April was something, I think. Next month I'm doing another one. It's just been a very structured TBR that doesn't have much wiggle room, truthfully, but I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna figure it out in the second half of 2025. I have to. But anyway, to answer the question, some new releases that I still need to read: Faithbreaker by Hannah Kaner, which is the final in the God Killer trilogy. I'm nervous. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm nervous. And it's hard to get like a gauge of like a consensus on the book because like it's not a popular book. I don't see a lot of people talking about that series. I love it, but also I don't want to read anything on like Goodreads or Storygraph and like spoil anything. So also Buffalo Hunter Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones, which I definitely want to read because it's made its way onto so many people's like, if you love Sinners, read this book, because I believe it follows it's like indigenous vampire hunters, so I might need to read that. I'm gonna see, because I don't know, because in October I'm planning another I have an idea for what I want to read and how I want to read in October. But I also would love to do a month reading books with like Sinners vibes. I don't know. Anyway, next. Where's my phone? Because I didn't write down the authors of any of these books. The Unworthy by Augustina Basterica. Augustina Basterica, who is also the author of that book. It's about like cannibalism, I think. Tinder's the Flesh, that's what it's called, which I also need to have wanted to read for a very, very long time. This one I think has like culty vibes, and it's like some like sect. I don't know. It's culty though, so color me intrigued. I also have Eat the Ones You Love by Sarah Marie Griffin, which I believe is sort of like inspired by like a take on has like Little Shop of Horror vibes. Yeah. Yeah, I also love a bit of like eco horror, So I'm very much into this. I very much need to get it immediately. And then I also have Water Moon by Samantha Soto and Vincent Bassett, which is like a woman like inherits a pawn shop and you can like buy and trade regrets or like trade in regrets or something like that, which is so intriguing of a concept. Was that English? I don't care. Following that, most anticipated release for the second half of the year, definitely Good Spirits by B.K. Borison. This is a Christmas romance, Christmas like paranormal romance that follows, I think is she an antique shop owner or something? And he's like a ghost of Christmas past who's meant to haunt her, but she's not like a Scrooge or anything. And like for some reason, she's the only mortal human that's ever been able to touch him. He's a ghost that's like craving touch. And I don't know. I read very few like paranormal romances. I have read a romance involving, I think I've read like 2 involving ghosts before. I don't know, but I trust BK Borison, and anything she puts out I'm gonna read. So here we are. Also, the cover is really cute, and I'm also like in a really Christmassy mood at the moment. I'm working on like a Christmas short story. Will it ever see the light of day? I really hope so. I would love to do like post it, because you know, like Christmas in July. I'd love to have it done by sometime next month, at least the first draft. Anywho, moving on. Witchlight by Susan Dennard, which is the final. It's the final of the Witchlands series. If you've been here, you know I have been talking about Truth Witch and Blood Witch and them for ages. It's one of my favorite series. I definitely, when this comes out, need to do a reread of the entire series before going into this, because that was the mistake I made with Witch Shadow, the book before this, where I sort of felt like almost disconnected. I didn't love it as much as I thought I would, as I was hoping I would, but I think it's also because it had been so long since I had read Blood Witch that I just dove in without like refreshing my memory of of what had transpired prior. So when it comes out, I don't know when I'll actually get around to reading it, because I'm going to have to dedicate a good chunk of time to rereading the first Truth Witch, Wind Witch, Blood Witch, Sight Witch, Witch Shadow. 5 books. 4 books and a novella. I'm also really excited, or anticipating rather, The Eyes of Gaza, A Diary of Resilience by Plestia Alakad, one of the journalists that were like really prominent, especially like the start of the genocide in Gaza. So she's only 22? Whoa, okay. Ooh, it's so jarring to think about like how young the journalists, these kids are, that were so vital to us knowing the truth of what was going on, or is still going on. But you know, this is an account of like the first 45 days of the genocide. And like we still have some of them that are still living in like Bisan, who is still there, and every day that I see her post a new video, it is like a sigh, a deep soul sigh of relief to see her face. And then last but not least, I also have Eternal Ruin by Tika Skirma. I already mentioned is the sequel to Immortal Dark. I'm so excited. I am so amped up to see where this story goes. I'm so amped up to be back in this world with Kitten and Sisanios and nope, that's a spoiler. Anyway, so next, number 5, biggest disappointment of 2025. Ooh, Ooh, the first one I wrote down really hurts that it's on this list, and it's The Ruined by Renee Attia, which is the final book in the Beautiful series. That book, I ended up DNFing that book, which should tell you everything you know, because it is so difficult for me to fully DNF a book, to fully give up on a book. A lot of times I will at least soft DNF and like, I'll come back to it eventually, or I'll download the audiobook and I'll listen to it, and at least that way I'll say I finished it, or I'll just push through. I couldn't. It just didn't feel, not only did it not feel like the rest of the series, it didn't feel good. It just didn't feel like Renee at all. I have been such a big fan of Renee's work for so long. Any chance I can get, I will mention how much I love the Wrath and the Dawn duology. I enjoyed the Flame and the Mist duology, not as much as the Wrath and the Dawn, but that's neither here nor there. And I loved The Beautiful and The Damned. The first two were spectacular. And even book 3, I was intrigued by the shift in the story. It had a lot of potential. I was intrigued to see how the story would carry out, and then I started reading the final book, and what is this? And I tried, I really did. Getting to like 60, I think like 64 or whatever, page 64 was a feat. And that was just for me pushing through and forcing myself to like try to keep reading, and like I'm like, maybe it's me, because you know, a lot of times I will say maybe the disconnect of me reading certain books is up to me. Like sometimes my brain is not working to its highest potential. But then I with this book I ended up going and just like trying to skim through reviews to see like maybe it's me. It wasn't me. The average rating, 3 solid, and the 3-star ratings were all rounded up, and that's really disappointing. And there was even a character, like a crossover from another one of Renee's stories, that didn't even move me. And honestly, that should have moved me. It did not. Enough about that. Also, no surprise to anyone, Portrait of the Artist is a Young Man by James Joyce. I read that book. I read the book in March as a part of my Books with Hosier Vibes vlog, and that was a painful experience. I did not retain a single thing that happened in that book. I couldn't tell you anything about that book except that the main character's name was Stephen, and it took place in Ireland. And it was like the 30s or something. Yeah. Never again. Never, ever, ever again. The only reason I'm keeping it is for my classics collection, for my eventual reading room. And the last one is, I think it was the first book that I read this year. That's so sad. And it's An Education in Malice by S.T. Gibson, which was devastating because this was the first S.T. Gibson book that I read after A Dowry of Blood, and I adored A Dowry of Blood. Is my expectations were possibly set a little too high. That book did nothing for me. It did nothing. It was a waste of my time, and I'm very sad. I was so excited because like A Dowry of Blood is like inspired by a sort of take on Dracula. It's told from the point of view of Dracula's like wives, and An Education of Malice is a take on Carmilla. On one hand, I did read Carmilla. I listened to the audiobook last year. Was that last year? I think it was last year, last October. I could be wrong. I could be making that up. I wasn't really moved by it. I didn't really care about the actual book itself. I just wanted to read it, one, because I know it is like one of like the first vampire stories. It is like the story that kind of like inspired Dracula, and also because I knew I was planning at some point to read The Education of Malice, so I wanted to be familiar with the source material. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. Big loss for my Sapphic girlies. I'm so sorry. Okay, biggest surprise of 2025. I'm gonna give that to The Saint of Heartbreak by Morgan Dante. Another book I read for my Hosier vlog, and I did not anticipate that I would enjoy that book, that I would love that book as much as I did, that I would be sympathizing and empathizing and feeling for and like rooting, not rooting for, but like rooting for Judas Iscariot and the devil so much. This is a dark, melancholy love story between Judas and Lucifer after Judas betrays Jesus and ends up in hell. Not only for them, I'm shipping Judas and Jesus, and yeah, like I have a whole, it unraveled so many thoughts and like conversations about a story that I've been taught my entire life, or and just told and studied, I guess, my entire life, and just, I don't know, it was really good. I really enjoyed it. I kind of like really want to read more biblical inspired books. Like there are a few more like queer biblical romances that I've added to my TBR. Angels Before Man, I believe, is the title of the next one I want to read. It almost took this one's place. It was between those two for my Hosier vlog. But yeah, gooped. Okay, number 7, favorite new author. The first, I have 2 written down. Let's pretend to be shocked. The first one is not a new author, but is new to me. Octavia E. Butler. I want to consume everything that she put out. I'm on a mission to do so. I feel like every time I go book shopping, I'm going to have to include something of hers to bring home and add to my collection. After I finish Parable of the Talents, I think the next one I want to read is Kindred. Yeah, all of my shopping carts, all of my TBRs are just full. I just need to read everything. An absolute wordsmith, an absolute just like phenomenon, and like every bit of praise that has ever been heaped onto Octavia E. Butler is so deserved, so correct. Honestly, probably I could easily say maybe just off of one book, one of my favorite authors ever. Yeah, a new inspiration for me as a writer. I said this in the vlog, but if my writing can make someone feel the way I felt reading this book, then I will feel so accomplished. Also, no surprise, because number 7 goes hand in hand with number 1. I also have Tigus Germa, Immortal Dark. It came to me right when I needed it. I ingested that book like hardcore drugs. That was a crazy thing I just said. Anyway, and I have not shut up about that book since January, and I will not do so until maybe book 2, but then I'll just be talking about both of them. That book was so good. I cannot stress enough how incredible Immortal Dark was. Okay, let's speed through this. Newest fictional crush. I don't really have one. The books that I've been reading this year haven't really exposed me to adult characters to have crushes on, really. However, I did just read Natasha Bishop's Lost and Found series after rereading Only for the Week, but I can't It's his newest fictional crush, so I can't mention Rome again. So I guess maybe Isaiah from Where We Found Our Heart, which is the second one. I did really love his character, and just all of Natasha Bishop's male main characters, male love interests, just literally just like worship the ground these women walk on, and just are so down atrocious for these women. And like, me win, God, hello. Yeah, Isaiah just loved Nina and her siblings, and just like immediately made them family. A man. Anyway, favorite new character, honestly, I'm gonna go with the icon, the legend, Miss Maisley Donner from Sunrise on the Reaping. Like I said, an icon. I love her. I love like everything that came out of her mouth. Gold. May she rest in peace. May she rest in peace, my queen. I cannot wait to see her antics on the big screen. Going with that answer, book that made you cry, obviously Sunrise on the Reaping. If you did not watch my vlog, my full spoiler vlog, or my reading vlog from May, from start to finish, I was a mess. I was unwell, I was unhinged, unreal, unearthed. Suzanne Collins, when I catch you, Suzanne. And then seeing the cast, this movie, I can't go and see it in the theaters because it's going to break me. The book broke me, but seeing little baby Ampert, nope, move on. Let's move on. Also, All My Rage by Sabaa Tahir. I finally read that, and oh my god, that book was a lot. The book was heavy, but it was beautiful, as what do you expect from Sabaa, honestly. But yeah, that book hurt me a lot. I cried a lot. It was a lot. How many times can I say a lot? But if you're going to read it, tread carefully, check trigger warnings. My god, just be prepared. I really wasn't. I knew that it was going to be emotional. I knew it was going to hurt me to some extent, because Sabaa Tahir has no respect for me and has hurt me continually. But I didn't expect to be hurt that way. Anywho, a book that made you happy, and honestly, I'm gonna go with one of the most recent books that I finished, Anne of Green Gables. I'm not gonna say it's the first time I've read Anne of Green Gables, because I'm pretty sure that I've read it when I was younger. I've grown up obsessed with Anne of Green Gables, the movie, just anything Anne of Green Gables related. I will not rest until I go to Nova Scotia, to Prince Edward Island. I think it's Prince Edward Island. They have like Avonlea, like little village, and I kind of wish that I had waited to take it there to read, but I've always just loved, and I have and with an E candle in my shop. It's one of my favorite ones. My shop is not open right now, but I'm working on reopening it. I don't know how I'm gonna do that in this economy, but you know, Jesus take the wheel. Ew, Carrie Underwood's dead to me. Anyway, but I just really enjoyed that book. I loved it so much. It is essentially just the movie in book form, but I just loved it. I felt so warm and fuzzy and content and cozy, and just like I was just hanging out with a friend, and I just had a good time. I ended up listening to the audiobook because I'd had an issue. My brain had an issue trying to read it physically, even though I did find one of my copies. I have several, and I was going to buy a new copy, but then I remembered I have multiple copies. I have one that I bought in Canada from a cute little used bookstore in Vancouver. But so I had a lot of issues. Ended up listening to the audiobook. It has made it into my sleep rotation. I have a few audiobooks that I will listen to help me sleep. It's Trevor Noah, Born a Crime, Spare, Little Women, and now Anne of Green Gables. Bless. The most beautiful book you've acquired this year. I haven't bought any. I have barely bought books this year. I think I did like a haul on TikTok and I bought 14 books in the first quarter of the year. Since then, I only have gotten 2 books, so those are the ones I'm going to mention, and it's my Lit Joy Crate We Hunt the Flame set, Sands of Araria set. Beautiful, gorgeous. That's my only option. Okay, last but not least, books you need to read by the end of the year. I have quite a few. First and foremost, I need to finish The Warmth of Other Suns. This is my slow read of the year. And I made it my slow read of the year, but I've barely been picking it up. I did pick it up yesterday, finally made a little bit of progress. I'm on page 88 of like 500 and something. So I need to like really make more time to read this so I can finish it by the end of the year, especially if I'm reading it in between other books. I have on my TBR Jane Eyre and Wuthering Heights. I want to get into my Bronte bag. One of my reading goals is to read more classics. I've been making a little bit of progress with that. I want to read Gideon the Ninth. Finally, this year, I finally made the decision that I am going to read it after all. I need to read The Reformatory by Tananarive Due, which what was I saying before my card filled up? Oh yeah, I was talking about The Reformatory by Tananarive Due. I've been wanting to read it for years. I finally got a copy a couple months ago and have yet to figure out how or where to fit it in on my yearly TBR or any upcoming TBRs. I don't know, but I would love to read it this year. Another classic, Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. Another one I've been putting on yearly TBRs for a very long time. This year has to be the year that I finally just read it. I need to at this point, you know. I'm like going through authors, especially particularly Black authors that I've been needing to read from for ages, and like I'm checking them off. I finally read a James Baldwin. I'm finally reading Octavia Butler. I need to read Their Eyes Were Watching God. Also, I want to read a few sequels. One, because I have some ongoing spoiler vlogs for series that I'm working on, so I want to read the sequel to The Diviners, which is it Lair of Dreams? Is that the sequel to that? I want to read the sequel to The Poppy War, which is The Dragon Republic. Is that the sequel? Or is that the third one? I don't know. I finally read the 5th season, so I need to read the sequel to that at some point, which is The Obelisk Gate, correct? I don't know if I'm going to read that before like any of the other 2 sequels I mentioned, because I started those first. So I feel like I want to continue those series first and just keep the momentum going. I also need to read the sequel to A Winter's Promise by Christelle DeBeau, which I read like in 2021, and I've been meaning to continue the series since then. It's a French translated series that I really loved the first one, and like just like a fun whimsical fantasy, and I just have not gotten around to part of the reason is because like I want to own all, I think it's 4 books, and the first one, I have the first one in hardback, therefore I want the rest of them in hardback, but every time I go to the bookstore they only have them in paperback, which I understand. In this economy, producing hardback books is expensive. Buying hardback books is expensive, especially if you are if you're like not buying from like Amazon or whatever, which I'm trying to do so much less of. I'm trying to wean myself off of Amazon and like all of the conglomerates. I'm trying to get out from under Bezos's thumb. So I don't know. I don't know when that's going to happen. I need it to happen soon though, because I want to read it this winter. I read the first one in like December of 2021. Yes, because I was reading it when we went to go see Jordan Fisher and Dear Evan Hansen, and that was like right before Christmas. So I want to. I feel like that's the time I want to continue reading that. So that'll probably be on my December TBR. Hopefully by then I will have gone ahead and gotten book 2 finally. maybe I'll just go ahead, rip the band-aid off and get all 3 at the same time and hurt myself and my wallet. I can't really do any big shopping until after July because I'm going to Chicago in July. So I'm saving for that right now. But my birthday is shortly after that, so anyway, that's it. Those are all of the questions for the mid-year book freakout tag. That was a journey. Thank you for watching. Let me know what your favorite book, what both your favorite and least favorite reads of 2025 have been thus far. Also, anything you want to read before the year is over. Thank you for watching. Like I said, if you like this video, please give it, what? My hands. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like me, feel free to subscribe. All my places are down below so you can follow me, and I'll follow you back. And I'll see you very soon. Bye.